Chief Justice Chandrachud को गुस्सा क्यों आता है? And more importantly, will the Supreme Court's order on electoral bonds take Indian elections in the right direction, or will conversely, like Home Minister Amit Shah and Finance Minister Nirmala Sitharaman said during the India Today conclave, will it lead to a regression where there's a return to black money? At least some element of election financing was being diverted through white channels. Now it all comes back to black potentially. At least that's what the government thinks. So are we heading in the right direction, or could we be regressing? To talk about this, I'm joined on this broadcast by Shehzad Poonawalla, national spokesperson of the Bharatiya Janata Party. Mahima Singh represents the Congress today. We've got Subhash Chandra Garg, former secretary in the Finance Ministry, and has been involved in conceiving the whole scheme of electoral bonds and understands the intricacies. Anjali Bhardwaj is a well-known social activist. She's in fact been fighting against electoral bonds, thinking that things are actually far worse. And for a legal perspective, I have Desh Ratan Nigam, advocate in the Supreme Court. I want to go across to Anjali Bhardwaj first on why what happened in the Supreme Court today is important in your view, because the Supreme Court said that now alphanumeric details will have to be made public by the State Bank of India. Why do you think this is a significant step in the right direction? And more importantly, on that larger question that I posed at the start of the debate, why do you think the Supreme Court's order actually takes Indian election financing in the right direction? Because the Home Minister argued, the Finance Minister said that this actually takes us from partly white to black again. Anjali Bhardwaj.
Yes. So Rahul, since you asked your question in two parts, let me also answer in two parts. The first thing, let me say that today's hearing was very significant in the order that has come, because the Supreme Court in its judgment of 15th February made it very clear that it wanted information, two sets of information from the SBI to be given to the Election Commission of India, which they had to put on the website. One was purchaser details. Who purchased the bonds, what denomination, on what date, and they said all details about these bonds. They also asked for all details to be provided about those who redeemed the bonds, the political party's name, the date and denomination, and the SBI was given a time frame, a clear time frame to do that. The SBI came back saying we can't do any matching. They said we didn't ask you to do matching. Now, when the SBI gave the data and it was put in the public domain, the Supreme Court has taken very strong objection to the fact that the SBI does not seem to have come clean in terms of putting out all the data that they had on the purchaser and the redeemer.
Now, why are these alphanumeric details important? What will they reveal which we don't already know in your view?
The reason why these are important is that once you and I know the alphanumeric, the unique numbers that are there on each electoral bond, and they are given for each bond purchased along with the name of the purchaser, and for each bond redeemed along with the name of the redeeming political party, we will be able to see who has given the money to whom. Now,
so you're saying everyone then can do their own matching? All rights activists, data journalists can do their own matching?
In this kind of a scenario where we don't have that, it's up to anybody to claim anything and imagine who is being given the money. This will really clear the air in terms of who has funded which political party.
No, but let's come to the second part. Now let's come to the second part.
Yes.
The Home Minister says, so this is a partial step, at least a part of the financing was happening in white. What will happen now? A lot of it, which was heading towards white, which is all in bank account legal channels, goes back to black. So how are we better off, Anjali Bhardwaj?
Yes, in fact, I saw your interview as well, Rahul, with the Home Minister. And I think we need to recognize, I have read the judgment very carefully. The Supreme Court has dealt with this question squarely. The court has looked at how, because the government council, when they came to court, this was one of their biggest contentions, that we have tried to clean up the system by taking away from black money, cash, and we've moved towards this system which is better, and therefore electoral bonds should not be declared unconstitutional. What the Supreme Court said are two things. One, the Supreme Court asked the Government Council that have you stopped the transactions in cash totally or not? And the answer was no, which meant that along with electoral bonds, cash could also be taken. The second thing, which I think is very important for your viewers to understand, is that we have a situation where in the electoral bond scheme, the trading of electoral bonds was prohibited, but there were no safeguards to stop trading of electoral bonds. What does that mean? I have some money in my bank. I can go and buy a bond. Nothing prohibits me, stops me. There is no safeguard to sell it to someone else for a consideration and take cash from them. So what has happened is that this has enabled black money to prosper in the country.
No, but you don't know that. You're making this charge. It may have happened in some cases, whether it happened in one odd case or in multiple cases. We don't know that. So in that sense, that's an allegation which you don't have evidence for.
Yeah. So let me finish, Rahul. This was something that the RBI, the then RBI governor, Urjit Patel, also wrote in a very clear communication repeatedly to the Finance Ministry warning of this. So when we are examining a scheme and what it can do, we have to look at the harm that is possible.
No, but you're not explaining how are we better off. Okay, so there are some harms and pitfalls. You still aren't being able to explain, Anjali Bhardwaj, how we are better off.
The Supreme Court basically has weighed things, applied the proportionality test, and has clearly said that whatever little gains might have been made or could potentially be made to bring things to the banking channel are all overweighed by the harm it does to our right to know as citizens. And that is why the scheme and the electoral bonds were declared unconstitutional.
Okay.